Hello, it's Renata with Renata's Garden, and welcome to another episode of Unearth Horticulture. Today's topic is all about seed germination, and as you can see, we're in the propagation greenhouse, and I'm very excited that it is finally in use after all those hard hours of labor. And today I'm just going to talk you through a little bit about what the germination process looks like here at Renata's Garden. Germination is basically just the process of a seed going from a dormant state, a non-active state, to an active and growing state. And germination really is simple when you break it down, but it is also an intricate process that is extremely fascinating to watch up close. So depending on seed and plant species, you have to pay attention to different environmental cues like light and temperature. And even in the prairie, we have some seed that are triggered to germinate by smoke, which is really fascinating. So depending on where in the world the seed comes from, you might have different environmental triggers. So it's always important to research that before you start working to germinate your seed. However, a lot of seeds are just triggered to start to germinate by water. And in fact, all seed must have water to germinate. And the process of a seed coat, that the part of the seed that you see on the outside, that seed coat, taking in water is called water imbibition. And it's the first step of germination, and you can't have life without water. So that seed coat, once it starts taking in moisture, it's important that you don't take away that moisture source, that water source. Because if a seed starts the process of germination, water imbibition, but then it dries out, then that seed dies. It becomes no longer viable. So there's a point when you plant the seed to the point when you see that first growth, that first active break in dormancy, that you must keep the seed moist and hydrated, well watered. The first thing that I see after a seed has started to germinate is a little hook. And it's called hook stage in the growing world. And it's when that hypocotyl or first growing shoot emerges from the seed at the same time as a taproot called the radicle emerges from the seed. And so at this point, you want to remove the tray off of 24/7 mist and allow for a little bit more air exchange in the root zone in the soil. So not keeping it as moist, but also not letting it dry down to the point where that seedling just withers and dies. Eventually that hypocotyl hook will pop up and cotyledons will expand. And the cotyledon, in case you missed last week's episode, is a leaf-like structure produced in the seed that is the first thing that starts to photosynthesize, produce sugars to promote growth. That is exterior from the seed. It wasn't in the seed package when it was first sown. And so cotyledon expansion is key to get that initial vigor, that initial growth to produce new true leaves. Once that seedling starts to produce true leaves, then the cotyledons will eventually die, wither, and fall away. They've served their purpose, and the seedling is well on its way to maturity. After the seedling starts to produce true leaves, you can really start manipulating the growing process. This is when young plant production, a knowledge of how to go through young plant production is really key, because you can really mess up a plant at this stage in its growth. And I mean, it's not just killing it, but you can manipulate how a plant develops as it matures by how you treat it at this stage of growth. And that has a lot to do with how much moisture and how much nutrients you provide to the plant. So when those first true leaves start to show, I start to boost the nutrient levels a little bit, provide a little bit more fertilizer, and I start to wane off the amount of times I water each day. I start to allow a little bit more of a dry down cycle, allowing those roots to really start pushing their limits and searching for water and allowing some more air pockets and gas exchange in the root zone. That really can help promote healthy, compact growth in young plants. The last thing I will say about germination is that it is definitely both a science and an art. While the horticulture industry as a whole has worked tirelessly to make the germination process more consistent and help growers like me to be more successful, it still does require a certain grower's touch to make a plant what it becomes, what it grows into. And so I hope that you enjoyed getting a brief glimpse into what the germination process looks like here at Renata's Garden. And I'm looking forward to sharing all these plantlings with you this spring. If you have any questions about this video or any others or anything horticulture, just don't hesitate to reach out and let me know. Until next time, you've been watching Unearth Horticulture.